Welcome to the Dark Horse Paranormal Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carr.
And I'm Kristen Johnson.
How the hell are ya? Happy Thirsty Thursday. We hope you guys are having a great week. We have a great guest for you guys, but we want to tell you real quick. Last night we did an interview, and I'm going to put a link in our chat. It was on Dark Hour Paranormal. So Dark Horse was on Dark Hour. And it's with our friend Michael. He's a great guy. And we got into the Quakers, which is a really cool little bit of history involved there. Let me see if I can get the chats going here. And big shout out to you guys. Hey, Steve. Hey, Courtney. How you guys doing?
I just wanted to thank, actually, last night we had Anne-Marie Young, as always. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And Linda Judd. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was good to see you guys pop up and chat.
Dark Hour. Yeah.
We'd like you to check out our YouTube.
Please.
If you haven't already. If you look up Dark Horse Paranormal Productions on the YouTubes, give that a like and a subscribe because we're trying to build that. And it's kind of a one-stop shopping. You get our Bigfoot and the Bunny shows, you get our Dark Horse shows, and some other things as well. So, but we don't have like a lot of strength out there in YouTube land, and it really helps if you go and subscribe and leave a comment or like something. We'd appreciate it. We'll send you
thank you,
some change or something.
Silly.
So excuse me, I just want to get the link real fast here. I thought I had this copied before the show, and I realize now I have lost it.
I'm doing paralinks.
And let me do this here. Here we go.
That's moderating here.
A link to our interview, and you'll learn a lot about Quaker history, which is really fascinating. If you guys know about the Quakers, sometimes they call them the Shakers because they communicate directly with God, and have this kind of thing. They were treated very poorly historically, and back in the 1600s, right around the mid 1600s, around 1650. Mass Bay colonies in our area of the world over here in New England actually passed laws that they could hang them upon arrival, stepping foot in Massachusetts.
They treated them like witches.
And we got a few good stories that we included, as well as our tales of our investigations at the infamous Spidergate Cemetery. So that's some good stuff. We got a great guest for you tonight. His name is Greg Kos. He's a Chicago native and veteran. His first paranormal experience occurred when he was just 10 years old. Greg is a member of two different paranormal groups, the Ghost Research Society and Shadowhunters Paranormal Investigations, which you can find on Paraflix. In fact, Greg is both a psychic medium and an empath. He's a member of Psychic Unite. He is an active investigator specializing in Instrumental Transcommunication, or ITC, as we call it, which we're big fans of, yes, as you guys know, and loves talking to spirits. He hosts two shows on Shadowhunters. The Shadow Hour is on Fridays, and he also hosts Metaphysical Crossing, co-hosted with Nick Sario, focusing on ITC. So we'll bring him right on.
Hello there. Welcome.
Awesome.
Seems like forever since we talked.
Wow. This is amazing. It's amazing. You guys, and your intro is just, I'm constantly in awe about that intro that you guys do.
Thank you.
That is just spectacular. I wish the heck I could come up with something a quarter of that good.
I'm sure you could. Believe it or not, I actually wrote and played the music in that, like, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago. Wow. And saved that song on my laptop, and that's just a portion of it.
And it's
that's my kids
laughing in the background
with me. And they were very young at the time. They don't sound anything like that anymore. They grew up. So
you know how that is.
That's how things go, right? That's life. But it's great to have you here.
Yes,
and,
finally.
This is wonderful. So we're very excited you've come on.
It makes me happy.
Us too. We're psyched. And we love your shows. We love what you're doing. We love that you love ITC.
Yes.
In your bio, it states that you had your first paranormal experience, and I believe it was in Gettysburg, right?
Yes.
When you were only 10 years old. Could you tell us about that?
I went out to Gettysburg with my father and my sister and my grandmother, and we went out to visit my uncle who was at Fort Lee, Virginia. And the way the family was back then, if you were going to go to any place like that, like a huge area like Gettysburg, and I just figured this all out this last time I was out there, but my father was the kind of guy, he would pull right in to the first available spot, and that's where you would stay for as many hours as you were going to be there. You wouldn't see the whole park. You would drive by it later, but I mean, get out, that's where you were. And we were out, and this is where we're at. And as it turned out, the winds would come in and go out. And when the wind would come in, and I get this mixed up all the time, I want to say when the wind would come in, it would bring all those sounds in. And it would be the cannons, and it would be the rifles and the screaming and the horses. And you could even hear the explosions going off over our heads. Like we were in a full-blown battle. And I can remember going ahead and going, wow. And then it would sort of fade off a little bit. And then it would pick up again as soon as the wind came back in. And this went on we were there pretty much, I want to say almost the full day. And we never went to any other spots. And I know myself that I have favorite spots there. That was one of them. Unbeknownst to me, it took me another trip to go out there to figure out where we were when this happened. And that's where I brought up the first spot that we were able to pull into the park. And that's an area called Reynolds Woods. Okay. And Reynolds Wood is where that Major General Reynolds, on the first day of the battle, he was killed there.
Okay.
And, it was just something that I was so happy that I was able, and it wasn't all me. I was receiving help at the same time, especially at other areas of the park, as far as being led, okay, is what I would, best way to describe it. And it was really awesome.
Now you were 10 years old. And did other people hear it too? Like, did your parents hear this?
Everybody that was with me heard it. And at the end, and when we were leaving to get back in the car, a park ranger went by. Now, back in those days, there were no events, reenactments, nothing. Okay, that's how long ago this was.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's just history.
Okay, and as he went by, my dad sort of flagged him down, and he started talking, and I went right up to listen. And he says, you're not going to believe what we heard all day long over here. And the park ranger listened, and he got done, and he just looked at my father, and he said, "It happens here all the time."
Wow.
Now. And that's what, and you get grabbed by the back of your neck when you go to get back in the car, and when you get home and you're told, you don't say anything to anybody about this.
Yep, I understand that.
Yeah.
You do not. Not in our neighborhood,
Right.
Yes.
Right. Parents.
My parents were very strict Catholics too, so it just like. So that was the beginning. That's what really anchored me, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And
the curiosity that you would seek it out later in life.
Well, that and everything all the way to UFOs. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. There's a lot of crossover in the phenomena. As you know, we talk about that a lot because I think it's important. We do. We think a lot of the
Absolutely.
phenomena is very similar. There are things like it's been reported in lots of alien abductions where the aliens have actually told the people
Mhm.
that they're taking their information, like as far as how the alien even presents itself, from that person. Which gets us into the idea that some of this paranormal phenomena, some of these spirits are not the spirits we think they are, that they might be playing roles.
I believe it.
Yeah.
They're all, I think they're all together. They're all one and the same. I really do. I feel that the ghosts and the spirits and the aliens, are all meshed together. That, depending on what you're thinking is going to, it's going to come across to you that way.
Do you mean, but they're different entities as well?
Yes.
But they are all meshed together. They do take from us, our consciousness, our
Exactly.
telepathy.
There does
Absolutely.
seem to be some kind of telepathy involved. And at the end of the day, we are basically talking to a disembodied consciousness,
Yes.
right? So we
Right.
don't always know. We can't see it. We might get impressions, but we don't even know
Right.
if they're pushing that toward us. It's so strange. And I like to leave it open-ended and just call the stuff we capture data.
Mhm.
We're big on that word because we don't really know all the answers, but we want to. And you've
Yes.
been at this a very long time. We want to know what you think, what you've experienced.
My experiences to that extent, I sort of agree with you, but I have wishes and wants, and I have a yearning, and I sort of have to fire that yearning, and I have to keep it flowing, and I have to work on what's available to me or what happens. You can go, how I'm going to say this, that we've all gone through those periods where nothing at all ever happens.
Mhm.
So when something does happen, I sort of relish it like anybody else would that loves to do what we do.
Of course.
And that makes to me the difference. I mean, I hadn't brought aliens into the way that we were doing a lot of our ITC until what happened a year and a half ago out at the Farrar School. And 2 sessions before that on Estes methods, we were bringing, the white noises coming through the headphones, and above the white noise, there was a distinct layer of sound that was above that you could actually hear the difference.
Yes.
And
We've actually gotten that.
And it was a ticking. And, I was going, what in heaven's name is this?
Mm-hmm.
And the guy that was doing the sessions with me sort of freaked out. And we were at Farrar School. That's when he couldn't, he had heard it too much.
Was that ticking like a clock or like a timer?
No, it's what I finally figured out or described it to be was something that I saw on TV. And that's when all those explorers, all the satellites that were going out to Pluto and Uranus and all those distant planets, when they showed the vehicle going through space, they would talk about the sound that space made.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Interesting.
Okay, so then I took that and I'm going, wow, is this what I think it might be? Is this some sort of communication that's trying to happen? And a lot of people, whoever's on here would know that I had brought up to a round table discussion of a lot of the names in the ITC world. It was the Hauntings and Austin Maynard, and I can't think of the other three. I'm drawing blanks, but they had a round table, and I asked that question. I says, "This is what happened," and I says, "What do you think?" And they got done, and the three of them that responded all looked at each other, and they started to smile, and they said, "Isn't this what Frank was doing?"
And that would be
As in Frank's Sumption?
Yeah.
As in Frank's Sumption, yes.
Of the Sumption box, of Frank's
Yes.
box. Very highly sought after ghost or
Now,
spirit
yeah.
boxes. He only made 180 of them. He didn't sell them. But they're out there, and I know they go at auction for pretty high prices.
You know, and back in the day, it came out of Popular Mechanics or Popular Electronics or whatever magazine it was, and there was a diagram of the box in there. And he literally took the diagram out of the magazine and went ahead and bought the parts and put it together because it said, "You can talk to aliens." And I don't even think back then they used the word alien. Spacemen.
Spacemen. Okay.
Something like that.
Right. Space intelligences or something.
Yes.
Along those lines.
And it was like,
yeah.
it was just, I took that as like a mini awakening for myself because of where my path was going as far as my spirituality was concerned and that kind of nature besides the investigations and always wanting to go ahead and secure different talents or gifts that I had been given and take them to a different level.
Absolutely.
If I'm not mistaken, Frank's nickname was the Purple Princess.
Yes,
and
it was.
the bulletin boards that he used to maintain and early internet stuff because he had been told this from one of his boxes by an alien supposedly from Pleiades.
Now, Pleiades,
or Pleiades,
well, whatever you want to call it, to us, there was a psychic that was on another show, and I turned it on, and I looked at this guy, and I just said, "I know this man," and I'm jumping around now, and if I do too much, just tell me to shut up.
We'll reel you back in. No worries.
and and I don't know why, but I wrote, "How long ago did I meet you?" Never seen this guy. And he comes back to me and he says, "It was a long, many past lives. And it was and he called it the galaxy or of Pleiades."
Okay.
I want to say that's what he said. And in that galaxy, there is a planet that's called Pleiades. I don't know if that's right or wrong. And I've never, it was so out of the ballpark that, it was hard to grasp until I started doing some past life regressions and did a lot of more or less on the mental end of it with a doctor from up in the area called Dr. Chuck Kennedy, who leads a group that's called Project Psi.
Okay.
I've heard of that.
And Project Psi is the group where they handle human trafficking cases.
That's why.
And lost people. And
nice.
He has a remarkable record, and he's a friend of mine and another friend. Well, he's a friend of anybody in the paranormal and, the mediumship and that. And it was amazing to be able to talk to him on that end because he has a network of people that work with him.
Now, are they trying to remote view these missing people?
They do that. They also do like almost I can't remember the word that it's called, where they the remote viewing is part of it. The other one was, you know how they used to do the Gensfeld too,
Okay.
that kind of thing, and that leads to the remote viewing.
All right. Right. To increase.
And then they do the old
ability.
the real remote viewing is where you would sit down and you would use the basic steps and you would do the writing.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have the 5 symbols. And then you go from the 5 symbols and then you sort of create
an ideogram.
Right.
Yes. And they do that too. And then there's just plain old ordinary everyday, really unbelievable psychic mediums.
Yeah.
That can see these things.
Well, I think that's wonderful. You know, a lot of police departments do work with psychics, and it's fairly well known, but you know, you oftentimes don't hear who they are. And it's great, you know, if you have any kind of gift and you can lend some kind of clue for a cold case. That's an
Most
awesome
definitely.
thing. Well, so yeah, you'll have to introduce us to that gentleman. I'd love to talk to them.
He's almost blind now.
Oh dear.
And you know, as far as his little group is concerned, it's almost off the web.
That's too bad.
Well, it still functions, but I mean, as far as anybody reaching out is concerned, you know, I could get you his number, but he can't even see his phone really to see who's on it or anything. But what I was going to say before that was that the gentleman who's my mentor is a psychic medium by the name of Scotty Rourke.
Okay.
Who's out of Madison, Wisconsin. And I've done all my work with him. And we're at the point where we're ready to go again, but he's got other things that are coming up to come in the way. So I'm pursuing my end more on the spirit box end of it.
Excellent.
And speaking, I want, and I have already, speak to my guides.
Excellent.
All right. So you're a believer in spirit guides. When did the paranormal, or I'm sorry, the psychic abilities come into this kind of paranormal thing? You had this experience at Gettysburg at 10, and did you think it was like a psychic occurrence? I mean, your family heard it, or were there other things that led you to believe that?
Because of the occurrences that were happening from that point on in history, everybody was there. People didn't have to be psychic or gifted in order to go ahead and actually experiencing some of the things they were seeing at Gettysburg. The last time I was there, I did have quite a experience on an area that was called the Triangular Field, which was just south of the Devil's Den, and that was about below Little Round Top, and it was this triangular field that went uphill, and all these Confederate soldiers were in the woods. And at that particular time, there were only 2 of us that came down from the top into the field. And it was me, and then there was Rosemary Eileen Golly, and her husband went below me. And I found this piece of huge granite rock slab, and there were boulders around it, and you could see the chunks that were blown out of it. Okay. And I set up on this rock, and it got dark, and I just started talking to him.
Nice.
I literally, it was like we were brothers. And I'm here to see if I can help you in any way. And I held out my hands and I said, come and join me.
I would have cried at that moment.
Well, it was really close, Kristen. Mm-hmm. But, it was so overwhelming. I don't think I really could. if you know where I'm going, because
I
it
do
was-
know where you're coming from. Yes.
and they were there. They were around me, and it was an experience that I was just gifted that night with it.
That's amazing.
And that's why I try to say a little more as far as the park's concerned, because of the things that go on in the park and how the people have gotten carried away with a place that's supposed to be so respected. You know, they're turning those battlefields into like a zoo.
Absolutely.
And there's so many people that died there.
Absolutely. I can't imagine the scarring that occurred.
This is the thing that gets me. Okay. I've said this so many times before. So many people go there. It's like the Lizzie Borden house. It's like anything, you know, very paranormal. And what happens is people have attachments with them and they leave their, I call it baggage, because you can feel it. They leave their baggage, they go home, do whatever, and it's there. So you have all that history, and then you have all these other things coming in, wanderers and everything, and not some are really negative. And Chris, this is where Chris really wants to go. He wants to go to Gettysburg, and I am actually afraid because I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to feel? And you just said it. So thank you.
And that's a marvelous gift to receive.
Sometimes it's not.
Well, you know what? That's why we all know how to cleanse ourselves.
Exactly.
We all know how to go ahead and say the prayers before we go, and we know how to say the prayers at the end, and what's
bring
there.
Offerings.
Yes.
Do you bring offerings?
I did there, and it was just coins.
Very nice.
And
cool.
I left a few coins on the rock. But a lot of people, there are certain things that you always talk about, you know?
Yes.
And this part here isn't something that I really share a lot, because I'm more involved in contacting them.
Understandable.
The feeling itself.
That's what we're here to do, right? Is
exactly
to bridge that communication now, however we can. There's a comment out here in the audience. I kind of like this paranormal consultant. It says, Greg, I'm from Pennsylvania myself, and Gettysburg has a special place in my heart as well throughout my experience in history.
That's amazing.
And Alan from the Wizards Table says,
Wizards
love to go. And yeah, maybe we'll do that sometime, Ken.
Yes.
We're looking forward to meeting you soon.
Hurry up.
Barbara Woodbury Spear says, hi, everyone. Hi, Greg. Lots of hellos out there. You got a lot of friends. I was putting up comments earlier while you were talking. There were a whole bunch of hellos, and people know who you are, my friend.
Oh, you know, it's what I can help with. You know, I'm not, all these people are friends for a reason. And we help each other. We're in the community, and that's what, you know, you could go ahead and use all those words that people use in those different groups. You know, I don't necessarily believe that's the case. I think it's all individual actions rather than groups. That's what carries us.
Yeah, and good intent. Intentions seem to be such a large role in things like psychic abilities.
And that's what I was thinking of intention before, and I apologize for butting in like that. But that's the big part.
That's fine.
You have to.
I don't think people understand the gravity of like their intentions. Mm-hmm. You know, life seems to work this way in a way. You know, if you have good intentions, and you know, it doesn't always work out. They're not going to say that, but if you're trying to achieve something like a communication, say you're using a spirit box like this Nanocom 2 that you and I received the first two of that were produced by Katie Stafford.
Yep. You got the darker one, and I got the red one.
I know we like the red. Darn it.
I like the red. The red pops out. We got the silver, but there's a little horse, so it kind of
that's awesome. I think did Katie put that on there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He made it all himself.
He made it out.
No, I mean his wife Isn't
Oh.
she
Yes,
the one that
Well, very
They take
the
possibly.
horse?
I think she makes
don't
them
know.
and he makes the box. Yes.
I don't know how that works, but
Well, we had
they
them on,
were
babe.
they were nice. They didn't tell us. We interviewed them. They were
Yeah.
really
I
fun.
know.
They
I
were
remember
cool.
that show.
Yeah, they're cool people, and it's a cool spirit box, and I like the new tech that's going into it. But the idea, and Katie said this as well, was that you should hold it. You should put some kind of intention into it,
Good Lord.
right? So this makes you wonder: are you experiencing a certain projection, or is that intention bridging the gap between you and beyond the veil?
Right.
I would have to go ahead and say that it's bridging the gap.
I think so too. I mean, we
believe-
would agree with you.
We agree with you.
But you try to look at all sides of possibilities and things of that nature. It doesn't
Now,
mean
in order to secure that idea or validate that idea, now when you go ahead and you use your box, are you using it in conjunction with other pieces of paranormal equipment to sort of bring the validation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, we always have like a camera going,
besides,
and we have recorders going,
Yes.
and that's a great thing. Plus,
Yes.
whatever we're feeling at that time. But if you get that confirmation
Mhm.
that an event actually just occurred, then you know it feels so much better.
oh, and you guys have had some brilliant evidence that
Data.
some amazing
Thank
things. Okay, I'm sorry.
Don't
By
be
the end of this night, I'm going to be going ahead and singing everything about data. I'll be on data overload.
Data overload. Isn't that a Rush song?
Yeah.
It might be.
I think it is.
But yeah, of course, like we try to get confirmation and stuff. And we were talking a little bit before the show about your trips to the Stanley, and
yes.
we mentioned Connor Randall. We have an interview with from like a couple years ago.
Yeah, it was 3 years ago.
That you can find out there looking for the Dark Horse Paranormal Podcast or on the YouTube.
I will find it.
Well, not
Everybody.
necessarily, but you know, some of these other people out there who want to make sure they go out, like and subscribe to YouTube. That
Yes,
we're trying
please.
to build a little bit. He was a guide there, along with Carl Pfeiffer, who are the kind of the roots of Hellier, the series Hellier that was on Amazon, and prior to that, Spirits of the Stanley. And they were working there when you went there back in the day.
Not only that, when they started to experiment with the spirit boxes and came up with the idea about basically the Estes method, that there were, you know, and I still feel that is the strongest evidence. But I'm going to say this. There's a gentleman out there by the name of Tim Woolworth, who's an amazing ITC man. And there's a book that was written about 4 years ago about the fact that someone else, and even going back in the history, that Giovanni, whatever that guy's name was, the Italian, all the way back in the day, it's all part of that same belief system. And they were doing this same basic Estes method, only they would include the recorder consistently in the link.
Seriously. Wow. We didn't know that.
In the link. And this was, like I said, before that. And I thought that they had mentioned it once on one of their sessions that they did at the Stanley about the recorder being linked. And everything would go, you know, so not only everything you were hearing on both ends would be going into the recorder before it actually goes back.
Wow.
So there's no misjudgment. Everything's, in other words, if you go ahead and you start to do a session like I will, and I get halfway through the session and I'm lost. And I don't know if you've ever gotten to that point, and they say that I'm still talking. And because I'm the conduit and I have the intention to communicate, that I start to channel.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it's about. It's about sensory deprivation, getting yourself in such a meditative state that you can channel the spirit through you.
But sometimes it could be to the point where it gets out of hand and things are said that you don't necessarily want to be heard.
Yes.
You mean it gets personal?
Yes, it gets very personal. We've tried it.
And it happened to me like 3 times. And one of the times stopped me dead in my tracks. And I said, wait a minute. Do I want to do this? And then somebody that is close to me said, Greg, it's not about you. It's not about you, Greg. And then I started to catch the drift.
We get it. Most definitely.
Because we are actually the instrument.
Right. You're the ITC at that point.
Exactly.
Right?
That was good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. Yeah. And it was such a great idea to come up with the Estes method, named after Estes, Colorado. And, this idea of sensory deprivation was something that could, immediately put somebody in a deep state. I mean, transcendental meditation, TM, meditating in general, can take you to different places, to different states. Right. And it's not that easy to do it on the spot. We're fans of like hemisync and binaural beats.
Yes.
As things to put us in that meditative state,
right?
Trance state to let phenomena occur. And
it does.
We've had some pretty interesting experiences with that, and we'll continue to do it. We started the Gateway. We got a little sidetracked. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Gateway stuff that Robert Monroe put out years back for Hemisync, which was a company he had founded, the Monroe Institute. It was fascinating. The CIA investigated this stuff,
right?
And came back with the conclusion that the world is basically a holographic universe.
Yes.
Which is like really
messed up.
It's actually
and for validation, all you got to do is look at Kristen with the smile that she had on her face when we were talking about that, and it's a valid reason.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
absolutely
it.
Absolutely.
That is, that's what it's about. But there's not a lot of people. I'm not going to say they're not gifted, and I'm not going to say that I have all the gifts. I don't. When I started getting into that end of it, it was strictly because it was going to afford us the opportunity in the group to have someone else possibly could have eyes.
Sure. Absolutely.
And, a lot of the groups back then weren't running like that.
Right.
They very, very rarely did they have mediums at all.
Mm.
Right. That came later. And spirits can be selective in what who they choose to see or hear them. You can have a group of people and only 3 people out of 10 see the apparition. You could have 2 recorders next to each other, and one of them may get the EVP and the other one may not. They target these things. They can target your eardrums. It's an experience we've had, and we've talked about enough on the show. But they actually went to our eardrums and not the recorders. We heard the stuff.
Yes.
And that was like the craziest thing. And we play it back and it's not there.
Right.
2 recorders, not there.
Not there. And
so it's really creepy.
They really make some kind of choice. And I suppose on that side, coming back to us, it's intention as well. What they intend to occur is what happens.
If they look at you and they look at, say, 6 or 7 people, they probably go, I like this one.
Right. Yeah, it could be.
And that's the way it is.
Simple as that.
I think they know, though, I'm sorry, Chris. I think they know that we can speak to them. I think they know, and that's why. And that's why I liked what Michael said last night to us on Dark Hour. He's like, the phrase was a symposium of spirits. And yes, that's kind of what I get as well. When you go somewhere, or even in my own house, you get a symposium of spirits, because they know, I swear they know that we can speak to them.
Right.
And
right.
and they like you.
God, I hope
And Marie
so.
says, I believe they often choose those whom they respect in themselves. And I think, yeah,
Thank you,
there's a like, and I think maybe just the, knowing that the person will actually hear it is maybe part of it as well. Paranormal Consultant says, I've lost video on my GoPro, LOL, but I have audio, but no video. The video
That
apparently
happens.
just disappeared, but hey, the audio still was there. No logical reason. Sometimes there isn't a logical reason. Those are the things that, you scratch your head and go, right?
Things that
Arsenio
make you
Hall,
go,
to date myself a little bit. Yeah, things that make you go,
Right. But it's
How did
just,
that happen?
why did it happen though? That's the thing. Not how, why. Oh, both. I don't know.
The some of the places that I've picked up a while ago, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, and I picked it up, and the feelings were really heavy, and it was sort of nasty, but that's as far as I'm going to go with that word, nasty, because it was somebody that didn't really want us there, and they were trying to show us the way out. But when we got there, we drove 10 hours all night long. We got to Old South Pittsburgh in the morning. We got out of and the reason I was saying that was we got out of the car and we're waiting for the person to let us in. And I started walking around the back of the building, and there was an old entrance where the emergency room was. And it was all glass. And then in the middle, they had the double glass doors, and they had the bars on the inside on the doors, and they were all chained. And that room was totally cut off with plywood from the emergency room area because of people breaking in.
Oh, wow.
And as I approached the doors started to shake violently. And I mean really, really loud.
Wow.
And you could see the glass flexing and these doors. And the guy that was with me, a friend of mine, Mike Wright, was behind me, and he says, "Why are you shaking those doors?" And I says, "Mike, I'm like 12 feet away from
You're right. It's not me.
And then he said, "You won't." And then because he's so big, he's a tall guy. I said to him, and I started to film it on my phone because we didn't even have any gear out or nothing. I says, "Go up there and grab those doors, and I want you to shake them, grab the handles and shake them as hard as you can." And he didn't even come close. So that's why when I went into the building, all automatically I was thinking there was something in there that wasn't very pleasant.
Absolutely.
It's easy to believe in an ER. I mean,
yeah.
Sadly, I mean, how many people pass away in ERs? And,
right.
If you subscribe to the theory that sometimes spirits are afraid to move on, or
trauma,
don't want to move on, or whatever reason they might have to not move on, certainly that would be the environment that would be conducive to hang out in.
Yeah, the picture that I sent you, the one picture, that was the nurse.
Okay.
And at the base of the nurse, if you could see that, there was a cat.
I did see that. I said to Chris, "That's a cat," and he's like, "No, it's." I'm
okay.
like, I'm like,
okay. Now the other picture where there was an outline in it.
Yes.
Like you could see how opaque she was, and she was standing in her room on the 3rd floor.
Wow.
And that picture was taken 5 years before I took my picture. And in that picture, if you look at that picture again, that one, at the base of that picture, the cat's there too.
Yes. Yes. I was like, wow, Chris, is a cat there.
Let me see if I
both-
can bring those up. I'm going to work
Yeah.
on that.
That is, it's just like, it's out of all the things that happen, and we have seen some crazy things at Old South back in the beginning, but I
I
mean,
can imagine.
it's wonderful now. Ronnie D has done such a fantastic job putting the thing together, the place, because it should have been totally wrecked. They should have just tore it down.
Really?
And out of all the ones that were there, and then there was a little video that I sent that was from Poasttown Elementary, and that was a little, if you saw that doll sitting on that chair,
Mhm.
and in front of it was an eddy meter. And if you looked at it, I filmed that for over an hour and a half.
Oh,
And
wow.
as I filmed it, I didn't see anything. And I went back, something was telling me I need to look at it better, look at it again. And then I started to pay real close attention to details in the picture. Okay, that's the nurse
With the cat at the bottom, if you
with
see.
the cat.
Yes.
And then that second picture was the one that was taken 5 years before that. And
Get that up just one moment.
I'm making you do some things that you
No,
haven't
it's
done.
okay.
No, it's
It
okay.
drive me
be better with
crazy
the
if I had to do it. I
StreamYard.
appreciate it. There's people need to see stuff like that because, it fuels the fire.
Absolutely.
It does, and it does look like a cat. I agree. There we go. All right, I got the picture. One moment. My apologies.
Paranormal consultant said that's why I like to try and relate to the spirits and ask questions most don't think of. Exactly. We do the same.
You can see her inside that. You can see her shoulder coming out. You can see basically she has a uniform on. And then down below there, right at the bottom of the screen, is the cat.
Do you know anything about like the history of her with the cat?
She was a nurse there, and when she retired, she had no place to live.
Oh, geez.
So the doctor that ran the hospital gave her this room. This was her room. This is where she lived out the rest of her life.
Okay.
So she's basically, one of those ones that the spirit that it's her hospital.
Absolutely. That's her place. That's the way she feels, her place in the world.
Yeah, that's where she.
Can't move on.
You
She
think
changed.
you could bring up
She
you
dressed
bring up
Lorraine
that?
to a creature.
Excuse
one?
me.
Go right ahead.
That last one. If that video will come up.
Oh, the video. Yeah, let me see if I can do the video. Just give me one moment about that.
Sure.
Um,
That the way that hospital is today, you could walk in it and you would think it was open. Ronnie's done such a fantastic job. And now there's another location that he's got in Tennessee too. Harriman Hospital towards Chattanooga. It's like 40 minutes away from Old South Pittsburgh.
Okay.
East. And it's huge. And they opened up like 2 weeks ago there. And he went in there before they opened, and him and 8 of the people that worked Old South Pittsburgh Hospital with him, and said that was the first time they had encountered so many full-bodied apparitions.
Wow. Like
that
to go-
they've seen three or four of them.
It's amazing.
And a lot of that stuff is like the Holy Grail,
Absolutely.
oh, for sure. All right, I think I can share that. So one moment. Let me bring the
I'm looking at screens on the boards and the comments. And
Now,
Steve O'Clair said, trauma bound exists in this life. It would only make sense that it would after death.
right.
And it's true.
Okay, I think I got the share going. Here we go.
Okay, now this, believe it or not, I was so excited when I discovered this. This was on an 1.5 hour video. Well, there you go. 2 hours and 2 minutes, 4 hours and 19 minutes. And what I'm doing here is I was going through it and nothing was happening. And then I started to focus, and you can see the eddy meter is going to move. When I first spotted it,
Yeah, I
you
just
can
saw
go
it.
back-
Saw it.
you
The
can go
EDI.
back.
Yeah.
You can
Oh,
go.
there it
You can
goes.
go back and look at it. And in the beginning,
Oh my God.
barely the end of her foot is showing. Her toes.
Yes.
The eddy meter was all the way over there. Now it
Hmm.
took something like 37 minutes
Holy crap.
It just
for
moved
them
again. Yeah.
for them to move that eddy meter all the way to the end where it finally stopped.
Wow.
That's a lot
That's
of energy.
amazing. Now that particular device is configured to recognize vibration and movement. Did it go off at all? I don't see any lights or anything. blinking.
I don't either.
That's weird, isn't it?
I
Yes,
mean,
it's
any
very
kind of
weird.
vibration around it. Well, I think one of its features, besides like REM and different things, is that
Well,
it.
now you can see the vibration, and the vibration's on the bottom.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's that
Oh
bottom
wow, look
part.
at it moving.
That's insane. Oh my God. This is like awesome.
That is so cool. Like, oh yeah, you got a little
gonna go again.
paranormal toy there, do you? Well, let me show you what I can do.
Now what was going on, I think, was
Mhm.
the kids there
Sure.
in this is a doll room. The students that were there, that were still there with us, they wanted to get to the doll, but they weren't unfamiliar with the meter. So they're trying to move the meter out of the way to get to the doll.
Wow. It just keeps moving.
That is so cool.
Oh my God.
I mean, you can see you rewinding it, but you see it move.
There it is. You can see
least
her
at the
toes
time.
right now. That's all you see
Right.
is the toes.
That's
Mhm.
amazing. Amazing footage. It's just weird. It's not really going on.
Now, like I said, I was so
It's just-
excited when I saw this.
Oh, yeah, one.
All I could do is take my cell phone, and I took my cell phone in front of the screen, and I started to record it that way. And this is recorded off my phone because I don't know how the heck to do very much of anything. You know,
Yes,
you guys are like, mad scientists compared to me.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
We're actually not.
Everything's a struggle, believe me.
Yes. That is wicked cool. It really is.
Wow.
It's a lot of energy going on there.
Yes.
Sure. And you almost
It's-
don't see the movement. It's like it flashes and it's in another place.
Yeah.
Well,
Like you
you
don't
know-
see it sliding. It's almost like I don't want to say
That-
for teleport,
that-
but it's kind of like teleporting. Just seems like
You could see how I was moving the cursor or the dot, advancing the
Yeah.
film,
yeah. That may be
because
why.
you had to do that to catch it.
True. Wow.
Okay, so it's a subtle movement.
No, it's just
I'm
there
trying
I
to
go.
follow.
There I go. I'm going to turn it on now.
Yep.
Bing. Now watch. It'll go bing. There it goes.
Okay, so it's slowly
And
moving.
then I advanced the film again because I was trying to see how far it was going.
Still.
And that's the only way I could figure it out. I didn't know how else to record it off of that.
Well, that
You know
was
what I mean?
excellent. That's the only way you probably could have done that.
The
so.
camera is on a stand, right? So the camera in no way is
it's on,
moving.
it's on a
like the
it's on a
doll couldn't
tripod.
It's on a tripod. The doll
If
could
you
not
go-
be sliding or anything like that, making it appear that the box had moved. In fact, I don't see the doll move at all.
Jeez, no.
Now, let me say this: that chair that it's in is one of those little plastic school chairs. The eddy meter is in a rubber case.
Okay,
Mhm.
we see
So
it.
if you take your finger and go up to it like this on that chair and try to move it, it won't move.
It won't
It's going
budge
to take
to the rubber, to the
right
plastic.
because it's of the friction.
Yes.
So it was that,
It,
you know, I must have been blessed because of that, because it was like
absolutely.
somebody wanted me to understand that, you know, I'm in this for the long run, and it took a long time to go ahead and come up to something like this for myself.
That's
I mean,
great.
the picture of the nurse,
Mm-hmm.
that was I probably shot maybe 750, maybe 1,000 pictures.
Wow, that's a
Yeah, it's
lot.
a lot of
And
data.
now here's the funny part about that picture with the nurse
Mhm.
is I shoot and I sort of have a good sense of sequence as far as the investigation was concerned, of when we ended up in the particular place, which was called the boiler room. And I had my camera and I was fan casting IR shots in the boiler room all the way across, because we had something in there. We were trying to figure out what was going on.
Clearly.
And I took, and it was like probably about halfway through the total investigation, 2 days.
Mhm.
And that's when I got that picture. And when I got home, I had to review all of those pictures. And
Yes.
guess where that picture was?
Where?
It was on the very last frame.
No kidding.
Really?
Oh my God.
Really? That's interesting. And it's a lot of work.
It is.
Speaking of ITC, have you ever worked with like feedback loops with video? It's something I've always wanted to get into. I never have, but I've
No.
seen some pretty amazing data. That's kind of where you're pointing the video camera back at itself at the screen,
Yes.
and it creates a feedback loop. And then if you go frame by frame for the video that you capture, and you can do this with, it used to be done with camcorders and VCR tapes.
Right.
I forget the gentleman's name who came up with this feedback loop idea, but you know, in modern times we can use things like webcams really and point them back at the laptop. You start to get images, and I've seen some amazing images, but you have to go frame by frame because it may only be there in one frame. It would be a face. It could be somebody that
It's creepy.
a person might recognize. Oftentimes is. You
Well,
know,
do you think you're that the people that are watching it are projecting that image?
The spirits.
well,
Yes.
you know, that's a
Yes.
good question. Possibly, you know, is it a mental projection or a spirit? You know, I only present that because it's a possibility. I don't necessarily, or we don't necessarily believe that. We do believe we're talking to spirits, but there are also other consciousness out there that don't seem to identify themselves too well, and sometimes they do weird things like the alien abduction phenomena I mentioned earlier, where they'll tell the person like, hey, I'm showing myself this way because I'm getting it from you, you know. And also we talk about roles a lot, as I'm sure you've heard us talk about in other shows, right? The woman in white, the kids in the graveyard, things like that, the little folklore stories that seem to pervade like every state, you know,
Right.
in a lot of towns. But something like that video is still blowing my mind.
It's blowing my mind too.
I hadn't played it fully thoroughly.
Before any of this,
I apologize. Now that I'm seeing what you were showing me, like, oh my God,
Wow.
that is so cool.
I have to go back and I have to review all the shots that I took at the Stanley that my daughter took with me,
Yes.
and review every one of those again, because that was 12, 13 years ago. And that was before she was married, and she got married. And that's what I wanted to bring up, because here's Phil.
Yes.
Phil Wyatt.
Yep. Phil White.
Hello.
How you doing, Phil?
sir.
Good to see you. He's a great guy.
Oh yeah.
He is. He's a good dude.
Anyway, where was I? We were, she got married in the Boulderado. We were in the old section, the historical section of the Boulderado. And it's absolutely gorgeous place, but they have a spirit that hangs around and makes things. She moves things, and her paintings on the wall on the staircase, huge. It's about maybe 10 feet tall. It's her portrait. And to make the story short, my daughter had her gifts for her maids for the wedding, and we were going out to dinner, and she was going to give all the gifts out. And when the gifts came, they went to me and my wife Margie in our room, and there were, I can't remember the number, but anyway, you know, we were downstairs and we left those in the bedroom, and we came back, and Jessica came in to get them and said, "What, we're missing one." And it was like, no. And as it turned out, like 10 hours later, she's crying. She's going out of her mind. "Dad, you got to go back upstairs. You got to look through the room again. It's got to be there, Dad. It's just got to be there." I'm almost tearing the room. I'm crawling underneath the bed.
Oh, geez.
Okay. And I'm in the closets and all this. And one last chance. And I could feel whatever it was up above me. That's the feeling that I had. Like they were watching me and they were having a giggle. And I went over and I'm going through, and I have 2 doors to check, and one of them's the closet again. And I walked up to the closet door, and it's in a corner. And I looked down like this at the corner, and then I opened up the door, and I looked in the closet, and I closed the door, and it's behind the door again.
Come on.
No.
So they're
Honestly,
playing games with you.
And then I go, you know, I came back upstairs after I brought it down. Everybody's elated, and it was like, oh my God, you know.
Thank goodness.
And it's like, don't go there, okay? Don't you even bring that up, because they didn't want me to say anything about it. So I'm going, well, I'm not drinking, so I'm going to go up to bed. And back then I had one of those little, it was one of those little flip phones, but it was a military version. And, you know, I turned the phone off and I laid it down on the little desk next to me. And I just said, "Hey, I don't know who you are." You know, I says, "But please, I don't need to be bothered tonight. Okay.
Leave me alone."
And
Give me a night off.
And I closed my eyes, and it wasn't even 10 minutes. The phone goes off.
But you shut it off.
Come on.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
serious.
Oh, what
And
was
we
on the
told you
display?
this happens.
Did you open it?
It just opened up. It just started up by itself.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
That was funny because we had a little thing today earlier. We're trying to get bio and stuff together. And yeah, I don't know if my phone showed that you called me like twice, but I didn't see it pop up on my screen.
Messenger.
So I wasn't sure if that really happened, or I messaged you. I said, "Is your phone haunted?"
We're all haunted.
I am just so glad, and I'm so fortunate to have experienced a lot that have happened, you know, not only to myself, but the people around me. And, you know, I just wish that the real loved ones would be the ones that would start to understand after all these years.
Hey, great.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, because it was so much, you know, could be such a beautiful big family.
Absolutely.
You know?
Please don't make me cry.
I'm not, Kristen. I'm not trying to make you cry.
I know you're not. It's just
I just like the fact that I know you people, you know, and I know that we all think the same.
That's true. Did you?
And, no matter how far away we are, we all have those same thoughts.
Yeah. We
Yes.
wonder what it is.
We
We
do.
want to know the hows and whys of the wows and
The wows and highs. That's what I said one night. I think it was to Lloyd Arbach or somebody. I was like, oh, we want to know the hows and whys. What a blonde. But yeah.
But
The
we
wows
do.
and highs.
We want to know how it works, and are we part of soul families, and where did our relatives go, and that sort of thing. It means a lot to us.
I mean, they know consciousness is alive. They've proven that. Like after the body, they leave, the body. The soul leaves the body. They did prove that. It's like several ounces less than what it was after they pass away.
I think it's really less than that. The weighing thing, but I think the idea of consciousness existing beyond the body, it seems to be a whole lot of data that points that way.
Absolutely.
And certainly things like telepathy has been proven in labs. We've talked to some of the people that help prove those things.
Yep, Gail Heisen did the
amazing, and it really was done actually a long time ago. We talk about remote viewing,
yes,
often, and remote viewing or psychic picture drawing actually goes back to like the 1800s. People were doing this stuff.
Automatic writing.
The spiritualist movement that occurred in around the world, really, but in America and the UK primarily, was huge. It brought a whole lot of this phenomena into the spotlight, and people were interested. This before the days of the internet. They had, they would go out and see a medium. It would be part like a show or something you would do, like for entertainment value. But at the same time, science was trying to say, well, how did that really work? And you had the debunking. You certainly had seances that were not real, but at the same time, there were people out there actually doing the thing
that were really legit.
That were
the spiritualistic movement. That whole spiritualistic from the late 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And then when you talked about the remote viewing again, the thought crossed my mind about the fact that why didn't the good guys, the good ones, all the good spirits, stop them from taking it and using it for some sort of military answer?
That's a great question.
Because that was just
it's horrible.
That's crossing the line.
Absolutely. And you're right. They're more intelligent enough, as we all know, to do something like that.
I think it's if you're innate ability that maybe it was untouched. I don't know that all instances of remote viewing involves like another spirit to make that communication, like as in mediumship, right? If you're a medium and you're talking to a spirit who's telling you information, you have like a middleman, if you will, right? But it happens to be, a spirit. With some of these things, I think there just might be innate abilities that we all have that are repressed either through our culture or evolution, that sort of thing.
A lot of times I'll get clues. And I'll get reminded if I'm trying too hard, if I'm really trying too hard to go ahead and work something through, they just laugh at me. And it's like, hey, why don't you just take a moment and say, hey, Happy, how about helping me out? Which is my spirit guide, my number one. And you know who Hoppy is?
We don't.
I'm like, what?
Hop Along Cassidy.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Okay.
That's awesome.
And that's how
this is absolutely the truth.
Oh, we believe you.
I had gone into the woods in my training on my mediumship and my classes, and I had to go in and I had to find my spirit guide, and I was in those woods probably a dozen times. Nothing. And I pictured the woods like I would be if in northern Wisconsin, and all the trees were in rows, okay, and you had a walking separation between them. And I was walking back and forth, and I finally said, I've got to go ahead and I got to continue to to do this. You know, Scotty said, just keep on going. When he's ready for you to see him, he'll show up. And I came to the end of this tree row, and I went to turn to the left, and I saw a black shadow like this, and I turned around and looked, and Hopalong Cassidy was there. Now, I have no connection to him besides the fact he was like, to me, he was a star when I was a little kid. I had his outfit, had his guns,
So
everything. Cool. And it was totally, how could you come up with that idea itself?
Right. It would be the last thing you would think of.
Right.
Your rational mind would have projected in any way.
And he smiled at me. And all I said was, what should I call you? And he smiled at me and he says, Hoppy.
Wow.
That's so wild.
That is really cool.
And I have other stories like that, but
I'll tell you one real quick. I remember doing one of these it wasn't as intense as that experience, but it was one of these guided meditations I had come across, and it was to find your spirit animal. And this was like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that. And I went through it and I got really into it, and I was into it. And of course, my preconceived idea would be like a wolf or a hawk or something really cool, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be like the end result. And the person narrating the hypnosis is talking about, walking through the woods, and you're going down the path and the plants, and describing all these things, and you start to visualize, walking down this path, and you come around the corner. And what I saw, and I was fully into it, and I saw my dog I had from when I was like a teenager and my younger teens that had become pretty decrepit toward the end of his life.
Poor
unfortunately.
baby.
Yes, Dustin, he was a Shih Tzu, and I love Dustin, but I hadn't thought about this dog in 20 years or more. And there it is.
That's
and I'm just like
guide.
Sitting in this like little clearing area and looking at my dog.
Decrepit.
And it was like, that's
baby.
decrepit baby. But sadly, he didn't look like, like a youthful, Dustin that he should have been and jumping around when we first got him. But kind of looked like, he was blind in one eye and had the, that was all whited out and stuff. That's what I saw. And I could have never thought of that.
So have you communicated with him?
No, that was the end of it. I was just like astonished. I was like, oh my God, my dog is still with me in some way. And that's what they meant by spirit animal. Like I'm thinking it meant something else, like, you're a wolf like inside or something, some crazy macho thing, really.
And see this?
There's my dog.
Giraffe. That's
my
awesome.
old dog. Yeah. So that was surprising.
I did it too, and believe it or not, mine's a Komodo dragon or a monitor lizard, and it has a veil over its neck, and I don't know why.
It has a what?
A veil, a white veil over it. The long necks. It's got a white veil over the neck. I have no idea why. Yeah, those.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Really? I wanted like the wolf, the dragon, like Anne.
Hey, you want something good, right? Something cool.
But yeah, it's either a monitor lizard or a Komodo dragon. Can't tell. And it's got a white veil.
When they were setting, when I was being instructed on, as far as spirit animals was concerned, I had to go to the zoo. And there was a zoo, and you would walk through the gates, and you had to close the gate. And they had like places to eat, a couple like little trailers, ice cream. I go back there for ice cream all the time with my guides. And all the animals are laying in this giant area inside the fence. And they're just looking at you. And you're just walking by and you just say, hi, how you doing? And there's supposed to be some sort of acknowledgement, or they will get up and follow you if that's the one. And I did the same thing again. I was on and on and on, and nothing was happening. And then Scotty says, well, you know, you don't have to walk around every time. You know, that just create a chair, a real comfortable chair, get an ice cream cone, sit in the chair and wait and see what happens. And I sat down and waited, left, came back, did the same thing again, same kind of thing, on and on and on. And all of a sudden, I was sitting in the chair, the same thing again, peripheral vision, like this.
Mhm.
And I looked over like this, and it was the nose and the gray tongue of a giraffe.
Oh my God.
And he
that's
turned
so cool.
and he turned his head like this, and his eye was right there. Now the connection to that happens to be when my daughter had her firstborn. We were in Denver and we were at the zoo, and I was pushing the baby, and my daughter and my wife were talking, and the first place we went to was the giraffe house. And we were in there, and I pushed him right up to the curb, and there was a little fence, not a fence, it was like a pipe there. That's all they had for the giraffes. I guess they don't want to go anywhere.
Good
But
Lord.
I just put them there, and they're talking, and I looked over and I'm talking with them, and all of a sudden they stopped talking, and they're both going, and they're looking like that. And I turned around and looked, and the giraffe's head was all the way over the fence and was about that far from the baby.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
looking at, and as the giraffe started coming up like this, I made eye contact. And that was it until this happened. And
Wow.
the giraffe did the same damn thing.
Oh my goodness.
So I knew
That's so cool.
that had to be.
That's it.
So
Wow.
it
That is really cool. Speaking of
was-
animals, have you had any experience with cryptids, cryptozoological
When you're out.
creatures
Yeah.
in the field?
there's north of here in the Madison area, there's the Kettle Moraine. And I have a group that I belong to that's Fortean Society. Singular Fortean, it's called. And they come up with a whole bunch of stuff at night in the dark, in the woods, where the trees are actually breathing and communicating.
I love that. That's amazing. And we've
That is
seen
pretty
that.
interesting. Yeah. And I've seen some interesting video. Actually, we were watching something recently about plants moving and on
Yes.
their own. It was kind of intriguing.
And the sounds,
trying to decode the video and having a hard time with it.
you see the one with the mushrooms?
No.
No,
Where the mu- where-
but I found a
They all-
mushroom as well.
They all have their own sounds. And there was a
It's-
guy that recorded the mushrooms. Like I don't.
I do know what you're talking about.
Mycelium.
They talk through electronic impulses.
Yes,
I read an article about this recently, about how mushrooms can actually communicate with each other
yes.
through electrical impulses
It's gonna be-
between each other.
And they all have their own frequency.
Yes.
They do, and
That
I
is
noticed
so
that
cool.
it was very similar to human language in the way that it was enunciated electrically, meaning like almost like syllables. They would send a pattern of electrical impulses. It would vary, and they thought there might be a language behind it. And they noticed different species of the mycelium had different patterns, which it was fascinating. I actually did read that. I think I know what you're referring to. And very, very cool. Very cool stuff.
I started
there's
getting
consciousness
goosebumps.
and all this stuff. It may be a greater or lesser consciousness that we're dealing with. I know somebody early in the interview had mentioned angels, and when we get to like angels and maybe some of the abduction, again, alien phenomena, the dreaded D word, I think we're talking about a different kind of consciousness, something that maybe is beyond human. But I think there are instances of maybe lesser consciousness all around us. you know, the way trees communicate. They actually communicate through the mycelium
Right.
that we talk about and to each other. So they're actually using another organism to send their input to another tree, and they may feed or starve trees based on whether they're an offspring of the original tree.
Right.
Different things.
No.
Totally fascinating, right? So they have to be conscious in some way, you know.
Right.
So we think so, and that goes to the philosophy of panpsychism, which are actually big advocates of. It kind of explains why an object, for instance, might be haunted. You know,
animism, and
it has to be amazing.
Animate matter.
Right.
It has to be amazing that you have two minds between each other, and I have one. You know, and I could never keep up with you guys.
You can.
Oh,
No, I'm just saying that, you know, it's double the wealth of information. Your thought, your banks are so much larger, you know, on a computer.
Well, that's sweet to say. Thank you
we
very
got two.
much.
It's wonderful that we have our team.
Yeah. We feel you are actually like two minds in one. That's the way we feel about you. So,
absolutely.
I never looked at myself that way. I was brought up, you know, you bring the best out in others, you know, that kind of thing. And
that's a great philosophy to have, and I think more people could use that.
Yes.
Same philosophy today. Emery Young said, mushrooms sing. Steve Auclair, our buddy, says, yes, trees sleep too. They relax and turn the leaves at night. Yes. And I believe they'll even turn the leaves when the weather's changing.
Rain.
Nature, right.
Yes,
Rain.
They flip over when it's going to rain.
Nina says, I don't think there is a lesser consciousness. We just don't understand or connect on that level. Well, you may be right. I mean, we're just postulating these things. We're theorizing, coming up with a hypothesis, trying to understand what might be going on around us. We don't have all the answers. We're just, we're trying to figure it out. Again, we want to know the hows and whys. We want to know why a house is haunted, almost more so than to measure the phenomena, because we know the phenomena exists. Right. It's proven itself to us. We know that things can happen that are just logically do not make sense, do not add up, but yet are absolutely real.
Yep, most definitely.
That's amazing. You guys do such a great job with this show.
Oh, thank you.
I'll tell you,
thank you, Anne-Marie.
I'm just awestruck with the comments. Oh, I get like, if I get 30 comments, it's insane.
Well, you're doing well, my friend. You have a show now on Fridays, right? And that is the Shadow Hour.
That's the Shadow Hour.
And I know you have another show as well.
That's where you guys are going to be on the Shadow Hour.
Okay.
And that's where I interview people that I really know or I've watched, and I understand them and I can relate to them. So I try to bring those people on to just sort of emphasize the good parts, in the community. And, that to me is the most important part, is to go ahead and bring that along, because some of them go ahead, some of the groups or some of the people produce shows, and, you'd figure you'd be a little more compassionate in your approach.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I'll say on that end.
We understand.
Yeah.
And, that you're taking your time, and if you're showing things to people, or you're letting people know, or giving people little insights and different things, and it's not that we can go ahead and do it all ourselves. But if we have friends like Phil here,
Wyatt.
Yep. Boy, oh boy, that would be great to run into him, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Absolutely. I love open-minded people. I do love the community. I think sometimes it goes in some crazy directions on small scales and drama and that kind of stuff. But that's true of any kind of community, really.
Well, it happens.
Overall,
it happens.
Heart there, and that and people do tend to want to help each other. And,
but it makes me tickle pink. just to be able to, because like I said, you guys have been the highlight.
Well, that's
And,
just,
that's a good thing, you know.
it
All
is.
the shows you watch, you know, and how many years have you been doing this now?
4.
No.
We're going on 4.
Well, yeah, together, you know,
Together. He's been on shows way before, a lot.
in teams and
So,
stuff like that, but not as long as you, my friend. You know, like
Yes.
it was only a decade ago or so.
He had to pull me in kicking and screaming. That's basically what
That's
it
our
went down
story.
to.
You know, childhood
true.
experiences really had shooken Kristen. She didn't want to do it. She didn't like it. And we were dating for a long time before she would ever get into it. But
Yeah.
Upon investigating her house, which has a lot of activity, eventually, I mean, put it this way, I did a 20-minute session and it took her 3 weeks to listen to it.
Yep. I would
3
go, no,
weeks, she wouldn't want to, and it was all this data in it, and her name, our names are coming through. EVPs, spirit box data, just a little short session.
Ton of EVPs.
And I was so excited because I was used to being in a house like all night, you know,
36 hours
before,
said.
you know,
Yeah.
150 hours of video footage, and you're looking for somebody who's not whispering. And I was like, wow, there's all this stuff. What do you see? What do you see? And she's like, nope. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. And then, you know, she was sold on it. So that's our little story. But
It freaks me out when I do, because I have felt this since I was a child. So like you, but it freaks me out a lot if we go somewhere and I say to Chris, we can't go over in that area. He's like, okay. What do you feel now? Well, we can go over here, but there's something over here. And yeah,
we use those things as guides. Hey, we both have like kind of different but compatible abilities as far as that goes. And, you know, I hold up the technical aspect, and she's definitely more inclined to the psychic ability. So together it makes a pretty good team, and we're grateful for each other. Which is
you just
to talk to you.
Kristen just draws them in.
well,
Just draws them in. You know, like a while ago, I saw a picture of you guys in the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And that picture, I bet you there were at least 8 behind her.
really, you could see that.
Yeah.
We're gonna.
You know, not that you really see it. You know what I'm saying? You can feel them.
Yes, in the pictures. Yes, I know which one you're talking about too. Yes.
It's like, wow, that's got to be one hell of a cemetery.
They all are here.
Right.
We pick them. Believe me.
I don't know. When I go, I'm not going to be hanging around the boneyard. Like, I'm out of there. As much as I like cemeteries, I find them very peaceful and quiet. And we're, you know, no matter what, we're always respectful.
We bring trash bags.
We will. We'll literally pack bags and take any trash we find.
We're very respectful.
All that
offerings
kind of thing.
And things. Yeah.
And I totally think committees that, you know, different towns have that go and clean up the state-run older, like, historic cemeteries, and they're wonderful people. Go out there and clean them up and to take their free time and put it to good.
Now they do the tombstones too, right?
Yeah, they'll do the repairs.
There's
now do they clean them too? Do they do, like, for your area it would be the Revolutionary War, right?
Our area goes back. Our oldest cemeteries will go back to like the 1600s, but those are rare. You know, so a lot of the places we do go are 17 or more likely 1800s, and you have things like, you know, the sandstone, which really did not hold up well over time. Slate, which, you know, people tend to break, unfortunately. Headstones, but what draws us a lot to it is the art that's on them. The death heads and the angels, and
they had these, like, one guy do it
pointing up. And I remember being in a cemetery in New Hampshire, and I saw there was actually a finger pointing down on this gentleman's headstone. I was like, well, that's not a good sign.
No.
I don't think he was very well liked. You know, hit somebody off before he died, for sure.
Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Exactly.
Exactly. So it's wonderful. I like that. I like the history of it. I like that people do grave robbings as long as they do it in a way that doesn't damage the stone.
Exactly.
That sort of thing. I think there's some great art there, really.
The worst war here, and actually I think it was like the first war that we know of, was the Native Americans.
King Philip's War.
It's King Philip's War.
Wow.
It started in Swansea, Mass, and went through Rehoboth and everywhere else.
Really went through New England. That was the bloodiest battle
ever,
apparently per capita. It's one of the reasons they talk about the Bridgewater Triangle out this way and that kind of thing. They think it may be caused by this battle because there were things like scalpings and rapes and murders.
But they did on both sides.
It was both sides. Like people always go to the indigenous people and say, "Oh, they did the scalping," because we were brought up to think that.
Right.
But that's not true. History is just so wrong. We spent a good deal of time talking about Quakers last night and how badly they were treated because they didn't believe in a middleman. The Quakers don't have a preacher in between them. They speak directly to God, and they follow the Bible. They're very religious people, but they were treated so poorly here. Well, when it was Mass Bay colonies and we hadn't, this is in the 1600s before 1776, when, we established ourselves and Constitution and all that stuff. It's amazing. I mean, they would torture them. They literally cut off their ears sometimes, right on the boat, stuff like that.
Mark
maimed them, whipped them, burned holes through their tongues. It is horrible. History is just so corrupted. The stuff that we grew up with, as opposed to what really happened. And that's a story we like to tell.
We actually have Native American hauntings on our Dark Horse Paranormal podcast. We had to deter.
That's some heavy stuff.
It really is.
It is, and it's scarification, and we talk about things like residual hauntings and lands being. I mean, Gettysburg. How do you?
Exactly what I was going to say, and where you live as well. Your
first experience in Chicago.
I live up by the Wisconsin border, so I'm by the chain of lakes. That's why I fish the way I do, because I musky fish, and I've been musky fishing since I was a kid.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And when I go to northern Wisconsin, I have a resort that I can go into it, and the lodge was from the 1880s, and the guy that built the lodge, he's there, and he lost his head on his wedding day.
Oh my goodness, what a story.
on his wedding day.
Oh.
He started the logging, and he built this lodge, and he ran the mill, and he went down in the mill on his wedding day, and there was an accident, and I got as far as finding out through communication with him that I kept on getting the word hernia come up, because this guy was like 35 years old. I believe 35 or 37.
Too young.
And the logs used to come through on those big chains, and they'd be flying through like that. And if you didn't get out of the way, you were gone.
Right.
And I got the word hernia after 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
And I finally and then I thought, well, that would explain, if he had a hernia, he couldn't move fast enough.
True.
Right?
Very true.
That makes sense.
Yes, that does make sense.
Although I do think a lot of guys think they lost their head on their wedding day. And that's not the one on their shoulders.
I was sitting here, and I was going to start to cackle before you said it, because I knew where you were going with it.
Of course,
that
you
was
did.
an easy path to follow. Yeah.
We all think
Left a few breadcrumbs there.
Yeah. I love that we all think the same. It's great. We love having you on here. We really do.
Tell us about your other show as well, because I know this one is more focused on ITC and is newer.
What we've been doing is we came up with a way of going ahead and using the Estes method. And we were doing I do a lot of doubles. So it was like, why don't we try to do a triple?
Oh, when you say doubles, what exactly do you mean by that?
Two
Like
different
characters?
two people with two separate spirit boxes on the same program. They don't have to be in the same room, and we experiment to see if there's communication between both of them.
If they say similar things? That sort of
Yes.
thing?
Yes. So we started that, and then we got up to triple.
Nice.
And it was like, but you see, when you get into a triple, you got 3 different locations. We do it with Greg Bakken up in St. Michael, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
We've done it with Katie Stafford, with Katie,
Wow.
his wife, in Missouri, and we would do it from here. And some of the things that were said, there was some correlation to things that were said. There was a comparison with words. I don't have anything here to document it right now, but every session we would keep one person, and they would be writing down all the words.
Mhm.
In the very beginning, when I first started doing the Estes, I have a tablet and I have a whole bunch of papers in there because nobody wanted to do it. And I'd say, well, just write the words down, and I'll go in, and we started it that way, and we just kept on progressing. And then we had the instances where things really happened at events that we did, where, people left. 2 people left one night because of some of the things that I said. There were two ladies there, and they were missing their third lady because she had died. They all worked in the joint. They were bartenders, and the third one waited on tables. And they had keywords for on their nights when they went into the bar, or code words, or whatever you want to say it. So when they went into the bar for the last shot, and then were leaving. And somehow I was in an Estes, and these words came out, and the first word came out, and that sort of frightened them. And then when I said the second word, that's when they got up and left.
Oh, geez.
Really?
Goodness.
And it was channeling again.
That's, I
And
can't
it's-
imagine.
I think it's interesting you're in a bar tavern situation, because there seem to be so many haunted locations that are haunted bars, haunted taverns, places where people drank into excess and that sort of thing, which I also think maybe a sort of a gateway. Not that I'm telling people
Alcohol.
not to drink or whatever, but
Right.
do what you want.
Drugs.
But I think those kind of things are sort of a portal to the other side, and you're opening yourself up in a way.
Wasn't there?
Do you think that might be why they're haunted, Greg?
the way I looked at it when we first went to the first event where they were actually drinking was I didn't like it at all, because I didn't like, when you talk about the intention again, or you talk about the people coming in with the thought of communication, which they had no clue about.
Okay.
They didn't really care. They paid their money and they wanted a show. They wanted to see things light up and that kind of thing, and so they weren't paying attention. Well, that's negative to me,
Mm-hmm.
And that takes away from the communication itself. If you had a whole room full of positive people, like a Stephen Greer meditation in the desert, drawn in aliens,
Right. The
it's
C5 stuff.
good grief. You wonder about that. Well, you got all that power. And some of them, maybe they didn't have any power at all, but they were there and they were believing. And that's all it took.
Yeah, the belief,
And, you can't do it in a bar.
That's very true. Now, there is some sort of, I don't know if it's a legend or whatever it was, but I don't know if it was Irish bar or an English bar where they'd be like these gargoyles that when people would exit the bar,
It's
They
an
would
English term, and
feed off of the person. They
we've
would
talked
jump
about this
down
before. We can never remember
Yeah.
the term, but there's a legend, that's sort of an urban legend that goes way back, like in the 1800s, maybe even
further back. So
about
15
these little gargoyles that would sit on the stoops, the door frames,
hanging.
and just wait for people who are drunk to kind of swoop down and
Yeah.
possess them or hurt them in some way. And I think there are
Attach themselves.
correlations to those things.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm not saying it's a good way to go, but
No. But if you're going to go into, like you were saying, Greg, into a place and you're going to go in and you need the good intentions and you need to do your thing with the guardians and everything. And I mean, even, somebody's Catholic and do what they need to do. You don't go in drinking. You really shouldn't or anything like that.
But you certainly
You go
shouldn't
with
investigate
great,
drinking.
Heartfelt
That
intentions.
never happens, but you shouldn't do it.
Right. That's
You're
Well,
open.
that we do events. We're going to do another one in June at a different establishment, but we have only, I want to say it's 15 people that are going to join us.
Mhm.
And we have different locations in the building, and these people are people that are focused.
exactly.
I mean, if they have one drink, to me, it's one too many.
hmm
And, usually the word's out, and it's like, well, if we're going to do this, we prefer people to drink at the end of the event rather than during the event.
Right.
Right.
Nina says we don't like to speak to uninterested people or disrespectful people. Spirits don't either.
Exactly.
And
Well,
Perfect.
they know.
agree.
They know right off the bat what's going on.
Our friend Steve says, great times at bars, not your best investigating. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, we're not telling people what to do, but, try not to cross the two things.
When you try to,
you're going to hurt
when you
yourself.
try to share the community or share the instrumentation and some of that stuff to people that are interested in that, it's hard to go ahead and draw a clear line. How do you mix both of those together at an establishment like that? And that's why I had to pursue that, down the road after we did one or two or three, and say, look, we've got to go about it this way because this is more important, because we're not here to make fun of anybody. We're not here to make fun of any spirits.
That's right. Exactly.
Phil says no drinking after it's Waffle House.
Waffle House.
Waffle House. That's right. You can work up an appetite if you've been out there all night.
Well, it's draining sometimes as well. You
Time
want to,
for
yeah,
Waffle House, a nice diner, something like that, some greasy spoon somewhere.
hot
sounds-
dogs.
Yeah.
We go for hot dogs and ice cream. Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as you said that, and all I could see is the guy that in the movie Fargo. Remember when they were, and he's got that cigarette in the corner of his mouth, and he says, "I want pancakes." And
Yeah.
Steve Buscemi's going, "You ain't getting any pancakes right now."
I love him. He's one of my favorite actors.
Yeah, he is.
Oh,
He's
I love
awesome.
him so much.
He's awesome.
I
So the
want
Saturday
that.
show is about is it on Saturdays? I'm sorry.
No, that's on Wednesdays. The Metaphysical show.
Yes.
Yes, Metaphysical Crossing.
Yes.
And is ITC based, and it's on Wednesdays. And where can people find where can they find your shows?
That they're all on the Shadowhunters Paranormal Investigations and Events page. And
All
it's
right.
not events anymore, it's lives.
Okay.
That was just changed.
Is that on YouTube,
It's
Facebook?
on Facebook.
Okay.
All right, I
Shadowhunters
put up
Paranormal Investigations and Events. Or
a link in our
Lives.
ticker,
Wonderful.
shadowhunterspara.com.
Mhm.
And I see that the site looks really cool, but it's under construction. You're revamping the site.
right, that part is, and that's the web page.
Okay.
This
Can
is
you also
I'm
see the shows on
everything's
the
on the
webpage?
I don't think they go there. I think they go to YouTube.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, the shows from this last year, all the shows that I've done are just being saved on Facebook. At least that's the way it was told to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, if you put it up there and don't remove it, it'll stay. We do the same thing with ours. We throw them out on our pages and a YouTube, and they're just up there, like an archive.
Nick Sario is the genius behind all the everything that's set up for the shows and that kind of thing. And then you try to run it, and you can't hit the wrong buttons. That's all.
Yeah. Boy, we understand that so much.
Oh.
We went silent the other day. What is it? What was it? We put up a UFO video that I've been trying to search for the longest time. He finally found it. And we're over there and we're talking away, and we have StreamYard. So it's like you put up the video, and it's like, as we're talking away, when you take us out of the stream, nobody can hear us. So yeah, we talked over that 3-minute video, and there was nothing, just silence. So yes, if you push the wrong button, that's going to happen.
The ins and outs of StreamYard. Sometimes we hit a roadblock here and there. I forget that. I put the video full screen, and of course we're narrating the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Like watch how it hits the water, because it happened to be one of these that went submersible.
Yeah, it was
there's no splash, and it's a pretty cool video, right? It's weird how it does that.
And then it comes back and splits in two. It's a really cool video.
And we're talking through the whole thing. And it was at least 3 minutes.
Right,
it may have been longer.
Bad.
And nobody heard us, so it's just this kind of it's no sound on the video. It's nobody talking.
So we're like, wow.
Oops. Well, that happens. You know.
So the button you push.
It's live radio. We call it radio. It's on the internet. You know what I mean?
I started the Shadow Hour about 4 weeks ago. I started it, and we were into it probably a little longer than what you guys were before we realized. And I had hit the live key. I had hit it. I know I hit it. And it wasn't live. So we had to start it all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've actually done that as well.
Those kind of moments. We did a post interview, and I'm not going to name names, but she was mighty pissed because I thought I had hit record.
Oh God!
And this is a couple of years ago, and we talked for like 2 hours. It was really late. We had done a live show, and we wanted to make like bonus content kind of thing. And we talked all this time, and none of it got recorded. And she hasn't been back since. So
yep,
we'll just still loves us. Yeah, she loves you, maybe not me.
Oh, stop.
Everybody loves.
But anyway, we love you. So thank you so much, Greg Kos, for coming on our show. We love you so much. We love your comments. We love watching your shows. I mean, it's awesome, and we're
absolutely
so glad we're great friends with you.
Well,
it's great to see you and talk.
I wouldn't be like me if it wasn't for guys like you. Okay.
Oh, that's sweet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you. We're honored.
Not guys, but
we understand.
I'd also like to say thank you for your service.
Yes,
as I
thank
understand you're a veteran in your bio, and we do appreciate that and respect that, and thank you for your service to the paranormal community.
Yes,
the video is amazing.
Yes,
you got a wide body of knowledge and contributions, and
amazing.
We really appreciate it.
We're very humble and grateful. Thank you.
And we'll be seeing you on my show pretty soon.
Yes.
We're looking forward to it.
We are.
It's going to be a blast. That's
Marie.
for sure.
Thank
Anne-Marie's
you,
going to check it out, and thank you, Scott, and thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Steve, Nina, Jeff the Goat, Barbara, everybody that joined. Lots of you guys in comments. We really appreciate it. Without you guys, we really wouldn't have a show. There'd be nobody to watch it, just be us talking. But that would be cool too. I'm not gonna lie.
Good old Phil Wyatt.
Oh yes, Philip Wyatt.
Go, Phil, go.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome.
We actually want to get Phil back on and talk about some of the photos.
He does the smoke, the vapor.
The scrying.
And the scrying with the water and the vapor. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy. We've talked to him in the past. So it's our honor, and we're honored to have you on.
Absolutely.
My friend, this has been a lot of fun.
Okay.
Stick around. We're just going to wrap
things
up.
Much.
And we'll say our goodbyes in just a moment.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all the time we have. We've hit our 11 o'clock mark. And thank you so much for joining us again. Thanks everybody in the audience.
Tracy Ann. Good girl.
It's been a great week. Check out our show on Saturday. We got Bigfoot and the Bunny coming up. And please do check out Greg at the links provided and find him on YouTube and find the Shadowhunters Paranormal and check out his shows. We really appreciate it. We'll see you guys soon. We'll see you Saturday. Thanks.
Bye.
Have a great night.